The Grand Assembly Hall stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floor. 12 massive seats rose in a perfect circle, each one holding an alien species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Above them, the dome showed the stars in real time, a reminder of the vast empire they controlled. Admiral Minho Park stood in the center of the circle. His gray uniform was crisp and clean, showing none of the stress he felt inside. To his left stood Ambassador Jisoo Kim, wearing the formal robes of Earth's diplomatic corps. On his right, Chief Scientist Do-Hyun Lee held a datapad, though he already knew it would be useless today. This was not a trial, it was a sentencing. The crystalline being that called itself Velhar spoke first. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating through the air itself. The human species stands accused of 47 violations of galactic law. How do you answer these charges? Jisoo stepped forward. She had prepared for this moment for months. The Galactic Council's laws were written before humanity joined the stars. We have followed every rule given to us. If we have broken laws, it is because those laws were designed to keep new species from growing. A ripple of anger moved through the council members. The Velhar's crystal body flashed red. You dare suggest the council creates unjust laws? I suggest, Jisoo said calmly, that laws written by old empires often benefit those old empires. Humanity has expanded into empty space. We have developed new technologies. We have traded fairly with all who wish to trade. If this is a crime, then the crime is simply being human. Minho watched the council members. He had fought in 3 wars before becoming an admiral. He knew how to read an enemy. And right now, every face in this chamber showed the same thing. They had already decided. A slug-like creature, its body covered in breathing tubes, spoke next. Humans have refused to share weapons technology with the Council. This violates the Treaty of Shared Knowledge. Do-Hyun couldn't stay quiet. The treaty says we must share technology that threatens galactic peace. Our weapons are defensive. We have never attacked a council member. We have never threatened anyone who didn't threaten us first. Your existence threatens the balance, another voice said. This one came from a being made entirely of light. In 60 years, humans have spread to 40 systems. You build colonies faster than any species in recorded history. You ignore our recommendations for slow, controlled growth. Recommendations are not laws, Jisoo replied, and empty systems harm no one by being filled. The debate continued for hours. The humans presented their evidence, their arguments, their appeals to fairness. They showed records of every transaction, every colony permit, every attempt to follow the rules. But Minho could see it didn't matter. The council had made their choice before the humans ever arrived. Finally, Velhar raised one crystalline arm. The chamber fell silent. The Galactic Council has reached a decision. The human species is guilty of aggressive expansion, cultural contamination, and refusing to accept council guidance. The sentence is banishment. Jisoo's face went pale. Banishment? All human colonies, stations, ships, and structures beyond the Sol system must be removed within 1 galactic standard year. Once this is complete, an energy barrier will be placed around your home system. Any attempt to breach this barrier will result in the complete sterilization of planet Earth. You will remain in your cage until such time as the Council deems you worthy of rejoining galactic civilization. The chamber filled with approving sounds from the Council members. The slug creature's breathing tubes pulsed with satisfaction. The light being glowed brighter. They expected begging, they expected tears and pleading. They expected humans to fall to their knees and beg for mercy. Minho stood straighter. He looked at each council member in turn, his eyes hard as iron. Then he spoke one word. Acknowledged. Jisoo turned to look at him in shock. Do-Hyun's mouth fell open. But Minho simply nodded once to the council, turned on his heel, and walked toward the exit. After a moment of confusion, Jisoo and Do-Hyun followed. Admiral Park, Velhar's voice called out. You have nothing else to say? Minho stopped at the doorway. He didn't turn around. You have given your sentence. We have acknowledged it. What else is there to say? Most species beg for leniency. Most species promise to change their ways. Now Minho did turn. A small, cold smile touched his lips. Most species need you. Perhaps that is something you should think about. He left the chamber. Jisoo and Do-hyun hurried to catch up with him. Behind them, the council members sat in confused silence. This was not how banished species were supposed to act. In the shuttle back to the human embassy, Jisoo finally spoke. Admiral, what just happened? We're being expelled from the galaxy. No, Minho said quietly. We're being freed from their rules. I don't understand. Minho looked out the window at the massive space station that housed the council headquarters. Thousands of ships from hundreds of species moved around it, all following the traffic patterns the council had set. All obeying the rules the council had made. The council believes they are punishing us, he said. They think being trapped in one system is the worst thing that could happen to humanity. But they're wrong. They've just given us exactly what we need. Do-hyun was beginning to understand. His scientific mind was already racing ahead. Time. They're giving us time without oversight. Exactly, Minho said. 1 year to evacuate. 1 year where they'll be watching us leave, not watching what we're doing. And after that, we'll be behind a barrier where they can't see us at all. Jisoo shook her head. But we'll be trapped. How is that freedom? Minho's smile grew wider. Have you ever seen a human accept a cage they didn't build themselves? The council is about to learn something about our species. We don't beg. We don't break. And we certainly don't stay where we're not wanted. He pulled out his personal communicator and opened a secure channel. This is Admiral Park. Authorization code Alpha 77 Romeo. Activate Project Exodus. I repeat, activate Project Exodus. Tell the scientists they have 1 year. After that, humanity is leaving this galaxy far behind. The message was encrypted and bounced through 17 relay points before reaching Earth. Within hours, thousands of scientists, engineers, and military personnel received coded messages. Projects that had been theoretical suddenly became urgent. Facilities that didn't officially exist began operating at full capacity. The Galactic Council had just made the biggest mistake in their long history. They thought they were containing a dangerous species. Instead, they had just released humanity from any obligation to play by their rules. In his office on the council station, Velhar reviewed the footage of the trial. Something about the humans' reaction bothered it. The Admiral's smile. The calm acceptance. The complete lack of fear. For the first time in 3,000 years, Velhar felt something it had almost forgotten. Uncertainty. And somewhere deeper, buried beneath layers of crystalline thought processes, something that might have been worry. The humans were planning something, and whatever it was, the council wouldn't see it coming until it was far too late. The colony of New Sol stretched across the valleys of Kepler 442b like a glittering web of lights. 2 million humans called this place home. They had farms, schools, factories, and parks. Children had been born here who had never seen Earth. This was their world. Now they had to leave it all behind. Colony Director Haejin Choi stood in the Central Command Center, watching the evacuation status on massive screens. Every building, every structure, every piece of human technology had to be removed. The council had been very clear about that. Nothing could remain. Status report, she said to her assistant. Residential sectors 1 through 15 are packed. The transport ships will take them to Earth tomorrow. Agricultural domes are being dismantled now. We're ahead of schedule. Haejin nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. She had received coded orders from Earth 3 days ago. They made no sense at first. Dismantle everything, yes. But then ship it all to coordinates in deep space, not back to Earth. Take everything down to the molecular level. Leave nothing that could be studied or copied. And most strange of all, take more than you brought. She pulled up the production reports. The automated factories in the asteroid belt were running at 300% capacity. They were building things, massive things, using materials that official reports said didn't exist. When she asked Earth for clarification, the response was simple. Trust the process. Humanity has a plan. Across human space, the same scene played out on 40 worlds. Millions of people packing their lives into ships. Structures that took decades to build, coming apart in weeks. And everywhere, that same strange order. Take everything, even things that weren't there when you arrived. Captain Saman Huang commanded the cargo vessel, Dauntless. Her ship was designed to carry 50,000 tons of material. For the past month, she had been making runs between New Sol and the asteroid belt beyond Jupiter. Every trip, her cargo hold was full. Every trip, the weight sensors showed something impossible. Captain, her navigator said, these numbers can't be right. According to the manifest, we're carrying 70,000 tons. Saman had stopped questioning it. Log it as 50 and move on. Someone smarter than us knows what they're doing. When they reached the asteroid belt, her ship docked with a structure that wasn't on any official map. It was massive, sprawling across 10 kilometers of space. And it wasn't alone. Dozens of similar structures floated in the deep dark, all of them bustling with activity. Saman watched through the viewport as robotic arms unloaded her cargo. The materials flowed into the structure and disappeared into manufacturing bays. She had no idea what was being built. She only knew it was big. A coded message appeared on her console. Captain Huang, you are cleared to know the following. What you are seeing is humanity's future. Tell no one. Trust the plan. She deleted the message and set course for another pickup. Whatever was happening, she was part of it now. On Earth, engineer Tae-Young Kang was solving the biggest logistics problem in human history. 40 million colonists were coming home. They needed food, housing, and work. They needed to feel like this wasn't the end, but a new beginning. But his real job, the classified one, was much more complex. Project Homecoming was the public face. Project Exodus was the truth. In underground facilities across Earth, thousands of scientists were working on technologies that shouldn't exist yet. The Silence Drive, a propulsion system that would let ships slip between dimensions. The Phase Barrier, energy shields that could make entire structures invisible to conventional sensors. The Arc Protocol, a way to move entire populations across impossible distances. Tae-Young didn't understand all the science. He just made sure the scientists had what they needed, and that the Council's observers never saw anything suspicious. The Council had sent monitoring teams to ensure humanity complied with the banishment. They checked every ship leaving human space. They counted every person, every cargo container. They made sure humans were really leaving. What they didn't see was the fleet being built beyond Neptune. What they didn't notice was the massive energy consumption in the asteroid belt. What they couldn't detect were the quantum communications connecting every human facility in secret. The Council saw what they expected to see. A defeated species retreating to their home world. Do-Hyun Lee barely slept anymore. As chief scientist, he was coordinating 17 different research teams across 4 planets. The timeline was brutal. They had to finish technologies that should take decades in just 11 months. But humans had always been good at doing the impossible when they were motivated. The Silence Drive was the key. It used principles that the Council's science said were impossible. Humans had discovered it by accident. While experimenting with faster-than-light travel, instead of moving through normal space, the drive would let ships exist partially outside of reality. To normal sensors, they would simply vanish. We've completed the first full-scale test, his lead physicist reported. The test ship entered silent state and remained undetectable for 17 hours. When it returned, not a single monitoring station saw it. Do-Hyun allowed himself a small smile. How many ships can we retrofit? With current resources, about 15,000 vessels in the time we have left. Make it 20,000. Strip every mining platform if you have to. Every human ship needs this technology. The physicist hesitated. Sir, the Council will notice if we start dismantling mining platforms. The Council is watching the colonies, not the industrial sites. They think we're broken and defeated. They won't expect us to be building an armada. Across the solar system, the work continued. Every human was part of it now, even if they didn't know the full picture. Some built ships. Some developed new technologies. Some simply kept the Council's observers distracted with bureaucratic delays and endless paperwork. Admiral Minho watched it all from his command center on Mars. Status reports flooded in from every human facility. The plan was working. The timeline was tight. But they would make it. Jisoo joined him, looking exhausted. She had been dealing with the Council's representatives, answering their endless questions, filing their required reports. It was tedious work, but crucial. Keep them looking at paperwork, not at what was really happening. They're getting suspicious, she said. They keep asking why we're taking so much material back. Why we're dismantling everything so completely. What did you tell them? That humans are thorough. That we don't want to leave any garbage behind. They seem to accept it. Minho nodded. 3 more months. That's all we need. 3 more months and the evacuation will be complete. Then the barrier goes up, and they'll think they've won. And then humanity stops playing by their rules. We've been good citizens of their galaxy for 60 years. We've followed their laws, asked for their permissions, accepted their limitations. That ends the day the barrier activates. Jisoo looked out at the red landscape of Mars. Soon, this would all be behind them. Humanity would leave the Council's galaxy entirely, stepping into unknown space where no rules applied except the ones they made themselves. Do you think they'll ever realize what they've done? She asked. Minho's expression was hard. Eventually, when they look for us and find nothing. When they realize we're not in our cage anymore. When they understand that they didn't banish us, they freed us. The countdown continued. Every day, more ships were fitted with silence drives. Every day, more structures were built in deep space. Every day, humanity moved closer to the moment when they would simply disappear and become something the Council never imagined. A species that didn't need them at all. The barrier generators activated at exactly noon. Galactic Standard Time. 12 massive stations positioned around the Sol system hummed with power. Energy beams lanced out from each station, connecting in a perfect sphere that enclosed Earth's solar system completely. From the Council's monitoring ship, Velhar watched the barrier solidify. The energy wall shimmered like oil on water. Beautiful and terrible. Nothing could pass through it from the inside. Any human ship that tried would be instantly destroyed. The quarantine is complete, one of Velhar's assistants reported. All human vessels are confirmed within the barrier. All colonies have been evacuated. The banishment is successful. Velhar should have felt satisfied. The dangerous human species was now contained. They could grow and develop behind their wall, and in a few thousand years, perhaps they would be ready to rejoin galactic civilization as humble, grateful members. But something felt wrong. The humans had been too cooperative, too efficient. They had removed every trace of their presence from 40 star systems in less than a year. That kind of organization, that kind of coordination, it spoke of something the Council had underestimated. Send probes into the Sol system, Velhar ordered. I want to verify they're all still there. The probes launched. The barrier was designed to keep humans in, not keep others out. Council vessels could pass through freely. Within hours, the first probe reached Earth's orbit. The images it sent back made Velhar's crystalline body flash red with alarm. Earth was empty. Cities stood intact, lights still glowing in the darkness. Vehicles sat in streets. Buildings reached toward the sky. But not a single human remained. The planet that had held 8 billion people just hours before was now a ghost world. That's impossible, the assistant said. We watched them. We counted every ship. They were all there when the barrier activated. More probes spread throughout the solar system. Mars, empty. The moon colonies, empty. The orbital stations around Jupiter, empty. The asteroid belt facilities, empty. 40 million colonists had returned from the stars. 8 billion people had lived in the Sol system. All of them were gone. Find them, Velhar commanded. They have to be somewhere. Humans can't just vanish. The probes searched deeper. Their sensors swept every planet, every moon, every asteroid. And then, beyond the orbit of Neptune, they found something. Structures. Massive, impossible structures that hadn't been there a month ago. Thousands of them, each 1 kilometers across. They floated in the deep dark like sleeping giants. "What are those?" the assistant asked. Velhar had no answer. The structures were like nothing in the galactic database. Their design was alien even by Council standards, and their power signatures were enormous, drawing energy from sources the sensors couldn't identify. A probe moved closer to one of the structures. Its cameras showed smooth metal surfaces covered in strange symbols. Lights pulsed along its length in patterns that seemed almost alive. Then the structure activated. Light erupted from its surface. Not normal light, but something else. Something that made the probe's sensors scream warnings. The space around the structure twisted, folded, became something other than space. And then the structure was gone. Not destroyed, not moved. Simply gone. As if it had never existed. One by one, the other structures activated. Each one twisted reality around itself and vanished. Within minutes, thousands of massive constructs had disappeared, taking with them every trace of their existence. The probes found nothing. No debris. No energy signatures. Not even a distortion in space where the structures had been. It was as if they had been erased from reality itself. Back on the monitoring ship, Velhar tried to process what had just happened. Where did they go? No one had an answer. The Council's best scientists studied the data, but it made no sense. The energy patterns didn't match any known technology. The method of disappearance violated several laws of physics that the Council considered absolute. A communication came in from Council headquarters. Velhar answered, its body flickering with stress. "Report," the voice of the High Chancellor demanded. "Is the banishment complete?" "The barrier is in place," Velhar said slowly. "But the humans are gone." "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "I mean they have vanished, Chancellor. Every human in the Sol system has disappeared. We don't know where they went or how they did it." Silence filled the communication line. Finally, the Chancellor spoke again, its voice filled with an emotion Velhar had never heard from it before. "Uncertainty. Find them. Use every resource we have. I want to know where they went and how they did it." Velhar dispatched scout ships throughout the galaxy. If the humans had somehow escaped the barrier, they had to have gone somewhere. They couldn't just vanish into nothing. Days passed. Then weeks. The scouts found nothing. Not a single human ship. Not a trace of human activity. It was as if the entire species had simply ceased to exist. On the 5th week, a scout ship detected something near an unclaimed system in the outer rim. Energy signatures that might be human. Velhar ordered a full investigation team. By the time they arrived, whatever had been there was long gone. But they found something the humans had left behind. A small probe, broadcasting a message on all frequencies. Velhar played the message. It was Ambassador Jisoo Kim, the same woman who had stood trial before the Council. "To the Galactic Council," she said, her voice calm and professional. "You chose banishment for Earth. You thought trapping us in our home system was a punishment. You thought it would teach us humility." She smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. "You were wrong. You didn't banish us from the galaxy. You freed us from the obligation to follow your rules. The barrier you built to cage us? We were never inside it when it activated. While you watched our colonies evacuate, we were building something new in the darkness, beyond your sight." Jisoo leaned forward, her eyes hard. "We're not in the Sol system. We're not in any system, you know. We've gone beyond your maps, beyond your laws, beyond your ability to find us. You wanted us contained. Instead, you taught us that we don't need you at all." She stood up, preparing to end the recording. "We'll return to your galaxy when we're ready. Not as subjects seeking approval, not as children needing guidance, but as equals who choose to be here. Not because we must, but because we want to." The recording ended. Velhar played it again, trying to understand. How had they escaped the barrier? Where had they gone? What were those structures? A thought occurred, cold and terrible. The humans had spent a year preparing for this. A year that the council thought they were watching carefully. But humans were clever. Humans were good at misdirection. While the council watched the evacuation, the humans had built their escape, and now they were gone. Somewhere beyond the reach of council law, free to do whatever they wanted without oversight or restriction. For the first time in its 3,000-year life, Velhar felt something it had never experienced before. Fear. Not fear of being attacked, but fear of the unknown. Fear of a species that had just demonstrated they could outsmart the entire Galactic Council. Fear of what humans might become, unleashed and unwatched. The barrier around Sol remained, a monument to the Council's failure. An empty cage for prisoners who had never been caught. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, humanity laughed and built their new future, free at last. 2 years after the humans vanished, the galaxy enjoyed what the Council called unprecedented peace. Trade routes that humans had disrupted were now calm. Border disputes that humans had complicated were now simple. The Council declared the Banishment a complete success, but not everyone agreed. Nari Sung was a Tellurian journalist, a species known for their 6 eyes and their inability to lie. She had always been sympathetic to humans, and their disappearance troubled her. Something about the official story didn't make sense. She investigated quietly, talking to traders and merchants who had done business with humans. Many were struggling now. Human goods had been affordable and reliable. Council-approved alternatives cost 3 times as much and broke twice as often. The humans weren't perfect, one merchant told her. But they were fair. They didn't try to control everything like the Council does. Nari's investigation led her to reports of strange sightings, ships that appeared on sensors for a moment, then vanished, mining operations in unclaimed systems that showed recent activity, but no one was ever found, energy signatures that matched no known technology, ghost ships, the traders called them. You see them for a second on your sensors, and then they're gone. Like they were never there. Nari collected data from dozens of sources. When she plotted all the sightings on a map, a pattern emerged. The ghost ships appeared near resource-rich systems in unclaimed space, systems that the Council had marked as too dangerous or too expensive to develop. Someone was mining those systems, and Nari had a strong suspicion who, far beyond Council space, in a region so remote that no galactic map showed it. Captain Yoongi Chun stood on the bridge of the Shadowrunner. His ship was one of 15,000 vessels that made up the human-free expeditionary force. Entering silence state in 3, 2, 1, his navigator said. The ship shuddered. The stars outside twisted and blurred. Then everything went quiet and still. The Shadowrunner had slipped between dimensions, existing partially outside normal reality. To any sensor in normal space, the ship had simply ceased to exist. We're clear, the navigator confirmed. No one can see us. Yoongi smiled. The silence drive was humanity's greatest achievement. It had taken decades of research that should have taken centuries. But humans were good at doing the impossible when they needed to. Set course for the mining site. Let's see what we can gather before the Council's patrol comes through. The Shadowrunner moved through the darkness, invisible and unstoppable. It reached an asteroid field rich in rare metals. Mining drones appeared from the ship's cargo bay, also equipped with silence technology. They went to work, harvesting materials that would be used to build more ships, more stations, more of everything humanity needed. By the time the Council patrol arrived 6 hours later, the drones were gone. The mining site looked untouched. The patrol found no evidence of activity and moved on. Yoongi watched them go. Fools. They still think they're alone in the galaxy. The truth was different. Humanity was everywhere now. Just hidden. Thousands of ships moved through unclaimed space, gathering resources, building infrastructure, establishing bases, all of it invisible to Council sensors. The humans called it the free network. No borders, no permissions needed, no Council to tell them what they could or couldn't do. It was everything they had wanted and been denied for 60 years. Yoongi's next stop was a hidden station called Haven 7. It was one of hundreds of human bases scattered across the galaxy's unexplored regions. Haven 7 had 50,000 people living there. Farming, building, raising families. "Welcome back, Captain," the station commander said as Yoongi docked. "Good haul?" "Excellent. Enough rare earth metals to build 3 new ships." The commander nodded. "We need them. The expansion continues. We've identified 5 more systems suitable for colonization, all of them beyond Council jurisdiction." Yoongi walked through the station's central hub. Children played in parks. People laughed in restaurants. Scientists worked in laboratories. It looked like any human colony, except this one answered to no one but itself. This was the future humans had built in just 2 years. A civilization that existed in the shadows, growing stronger every day. Back in Council space, Nari's investigation continued. She found a pattern in the economic disruptions. Species that had relied on human trade were suffering. The Council's solution was to increase their own production, but it wasn't working. Human efficiency was unmatched, an economic analyst told her. They could produce goods at half the cost of anyone else. Now that they're gone, inflation is rising across 12 sectors. Nari published her findings in a major galactic news network. Her article was titled, "The Cost of Banishment: How Removing Humans Hurt the Galaxy." The response was immediate. The Council denounced her article as propaganda. But ordinary citizens read it and began asking questions. Why were prices rising? Why were goods harder to find? Maybe the humans hadn't been the problem after all. Protests began on outer worlds. Small at first, but growing. People demanded answers. Some even demanded that the Council bring the humans back. Velhar watched the unrest with growing concern. The crystalline being had spent 2 years trying to understand what happened. The best scientists in the galaxy had studied the data from the human disappearance. None of them could explain it. Worse, the ghost ship sightings were increasing. Just last week, a Council patrol reported seeing a massive vessel appear near them for 3 seconds before vanishing. The ship's design was unknown, but it looked human. "They're here," Velhar said to itself. "They're somewhere in the galaxy, watching us. But where? Where?" The answer came from an unexpected source. A rebel group on a mining colony attacked a Council enforcement station. When Council troops arrived, they found the rebels armed with weapons that shouldn't exist. Laser rifles with twice the range of Council military equipment, shields that absorbed energy better than anything in the Galactic database, combat armor that was lighter and stronger than current technology allowed, human weapons, but far more advanced than what humans had possessed 5 years ago. Velhar interrogated a captured rebel. "Where did you get these weapons?" The rebel smiled. "We bought them. From traders who appear and disappear like ghosts. They offer good prices and don't ask questions. They don't care about Council law." "Did you see them? What did they look like?" "Human. They were definitely human." Velhar felt its crystal structure vibrate with stress. The humans were trading with rebels, probably trading with anyone who had money and wanted weapons, completely ignoring Council regulations about arms sales. But how could the Council stop them? How could you enforce laws against a species you couldn't find? A message arrived from Council headquarters. The High Chancellor wanted a full report on the human situation. Velhar prepared its findings, knowing they would not be well received. The humans had spent 5 years beyond Council oversight. 5 years to develop new technology, explore new regions, and build a completely independent civilization. They had no reason to follow Council law anymore. No reason to fear Council punishment. They had become exactly what the Council feared most, a powerful species that didn't need the Council at all. Nari finally found concrete proof. A trader showed her a small device, human-made, that could boost ship engines by 20%. It was technology the Council scientists said was impossible. "They're out there," she wrote in her next article. "The humans are thriving somewhere beyond our borders. They're more advanced than ever. And they're trading with anyone except Council members. We didn't banish them. We just made them independent." The article spread across the galaxy. Millions read it. Many began to question whether the Council had made a terrible mistake, and in the darkness beyond known space, humanity continued to grow, build, and prepare for the day when they would return to the galaxy. Not as subjects, but as something far more dangerous, equals who had nothing to lose and everything to gain. 5 years after humanity's disappearance, the galaxy was falling apart. The rebellion had spread to 30 systems. What started as protests about rising prices had become a full revolution against Council authority. Dozens of species, inspired by humanity's escape, were demanding independence. If the humans can leave and survive, why can't we? Became the rallying cry. The Council sent their enforcement fleet to the largest rebel stronghold. 300 warships, the most powerful armada assembled in a century. They expected an easy victory against poorly armed colonists. They were wrong. Admiral Minho Park watched the battle from a cloaked ship 3 light hours away. His vessel, the Liberator, was invisible to every sensor the Council possessed. Around him, 50 human ships waited in silence, watching the same scene. The rebel fleet was outnumbered 10-1. But they had human weapons now. Energy shields that could absorb incredible punishment. Missiles that moved faster than Council point defense could track. Laser cannons with triple the normal range. The Council fleet expected to win quickly. Instead, they found themselves in a real fight. Should we help them? His second-in-command asked. Minho shook his head. No. This isn't our war. We trade with the rebels, but we don't fight their battles. That was the deal. But sir, they're losing. They're learning. Every species that wants to be free needs to fight for it themselves. We can give them tools, but not victory. The battle raged for 6 hours. In the end, the Council fleet won, but at terrible cost. They lost 40 ships. The rebels lost everything, but they had proven something important. The Council could bleed. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. The Council had always seemed invincible. Now, everyone knew they weren't. In the Council chambers, panic was setting in. The High Chancellor, a being of pure energy that had led the Council for 5,000 years, addressed the assembly. The humans must be found and contained. They are arming our enemies. They are destabilizing the entire galactic order. Velhar stood to speak. Chancellor, we have searched for 5 years. We have sent probes to every corner of the galaxy. The humans have vanished as completely as if they never existed. We cannot find what we cannot detect. Then we must negotiate. Offer them terms to return. They won't come back as subjects. You heard Ambassador Kim's message. They will only return as equals. The chamber erupted in argument. Some council members refused to negotiate with a banished species. Others insisted it was the only way to stop the chaos. The debate went on for hours. None of them noticed the shimmer in the air at the center of the chamber. Space twisted, reality folded, and suddenly, 5 humans stood where nothing had been before. Guards raised weapons. Alarms sounded. But the humans made no aggressive moves. They simply stood there, calm and confident, as if appearing in the most secure location in the galaxy was perfectly normal. Do-Hyun Lee stood at the front of the group. Behind him were Jisoo, Minho, and 2 security officers. He carried a small crystal in his hand. How did you get in here? The Chancellor demanded. This chamber is shielded against all forms of transport. Do-Hyun smiled. Your shields protect against known technology. We don't use known technology anymore. Velhar's crystalline body flashed through a dozen colors. You dare intrude on a council session? You've been looking for us, Jisoo said. We thought we'd save you the trouble. Minho stepped forward, his admiral's uniform pristine. We've been watching your little rebellion problem. Quite the mess you've made. You armed them, one council member shouted. You gave weapons to terrorists. We gave weapons to customers, Jisoo corrected. We're traitors now, remember? You banished us from your laws, so we don't follow them anymore. Anyone with money can buy from us. That's free enterprise. The Chancellor's energy form pulsed angrily. This is unacceptable. You are destabilizing the galactic order. No, Do-hyun said quietly. You destabilized the galactic order when you tried to contain a species that didn't want to be contained. We're just the consequence of your decision. He held up the crystal. This contains a treaty proposal. Terms for humanity's return to Council space. Not as a junior species awaiting your approval, but as a sovereign power with full rights and representation. He placed the crystal on the floor in the center of the chamber. You have 1 year to decide. After that, we'll be too far away to care about your answer. You're bluffing, Velhar said. You can't just leave the galaxy. Minho laughed. Can't we? We've spent 5 years exploring regions you've marked as too dangerous. We've found hundreds of systems perfect for colonization. We've developed technology that makes your best science look primitive. We don't need this galaxy anymore, but we're willing to stay, Jisoo added. On our terms. Equal representation on the council. Freedom to expand without asking permission. The right to trade with anyone we choose. And most importantly, the removal of that ridiculous barrier around Seoul. The council members erupted in outrage. Give humans a council seat? Impossible. Unthinkable. They were a young species. Barely 70 years in space. Do-hyun waited for the noise to die down. You think we're too young for a council seat, but in 5 years, we've accomplished what took your species thousands of years. We've built a civilization that spans unclaimed space. We've developed technology you can't even detect, let alone replicate. We've thrived without your guidance. And we've learned something important, Minho said. We don't need you, but you need us. Your economy is failing without human trade. Your authority is crumbling because we proved species can survive independence. Your military is struggling against rebels using our weapons. Jisoo's expression hardened. So here's your choice. Accept us as equals, and we'll return to council space. We'll trade openly. We'll share some of our technology. We'll help stabilize the chaos we've admittedly contributed to. Or refuse us, and we'll leave this galaxy entirely. We'll take our technology, our trade, and our people, and you'll never see us again. And the rebels? The Chancellor asked. Will you stop arming them? If we're part of the Council, we'll follow Council law, Do-hyun said. Including laws about weapons sales. But if you refuse us, we'll have no reason to follow your rules. We'll trade with anyone who wants to buy. The threat was clear. Accept humanity as equals, or watch the galaxy tear itself apart. Velhar studied the humans carefully. They showed no fear, no hesitation. They meant every word. Somehow, in just 5 years, they had become powerful enough to dictate terms to the council. This is blackmail, Velhar said. No, Jisoo replied. This is negotiation. You wanted to teach us humility. Instead, you taught us we're better off alone. Now you have to decide if you want us as partners or if you prefer chaos. The humans began to fade, their forms becoming transparent. The same technology that brought them here was taking them away. 1 year, Do-hyun repeated. Read the treaty. Discuss it among yourselves. Send your answer to the coordinates in the crystal, but understand this. We're offering you a chance to fix your mistake. Don't waste it. They vanished, leaving the council in stunned silence. The Chancellor picked up the crystal. Inside were the treaty terms. Detailed and comprehensive. Humanity wanted equal status. 3 seats on the council, and free trade rights. In exchange, they would share some technology and help stabilize the rebellions. They're serious, Velhar said quietly. They really will leave if we refuse. Let them go, one council member shouted. We don't negotiate with banished species. But others were thinking about the implications. A galaxy without humans meant economic collapse. It meant endless rebellions. It meant facing enemies armed with technology the council couldn't match. And if humans really left, they might return someday as conquerors, rather than partners. The debate would last months. But deep down, most council members already knew the answer. They had tried to cage humanity and failed. Now they would have to live with the consequences. Far away, On a human station beyond the edge of known space, Jisoo poured drinks for the delegation. "Do you think they'll accept?" she asked Minho. "Eventually. They're stubborn, but they're not stupid. They'll realize they have no choice." Do-hyun raised his glass. "To freedom. And to humanity, the species that turned banishment into liberation." They drank, celebrating not just their victory, but their transformation. 5 years ago, they had been a defeated species, exiled from the galaxy. Now they were something new, something powerful, a civilization that chose its own destiny, no matter what anyone else thought about it. The Galactic Council had chosen banishment for Earth. But humans didn't stick around to be punished. They left, evolved, and returned stronger than anyone imagined. And now, the galaxy would have to accept them as they truly were, a species that bowed to no one.